The Labor Standard Act sets the rules for wages and working conditions in most Saskatchewan workplaces. Rules or standards are set for things like minimum wage, the least amount of money per hour that employer can legally pay you, when you should get a work schedule, if you get a meal break, how often you must be paid, and how many days you get off each week. These rules help to make sure workers are treated fairly.
When an employee is terminated, the employer within 14 days pay all wages owing, all holiday pay owing, and the pay in lieu of notice, if required. A layoff means the temporary termination of an employee for a period longer than 6 scheduled working days. Discharge means dismissal, firing, or a forced resignation. What does an employer have to do before an employee is discharged or laid off? An employee who has worked for an employer for at least 3 months must be given a written notice or pay in lieu of notice before they can be discharged or laid off. The amount of notice depends on how long the employee has been working. Pay in lieu notice means payment of the employee normal wages of the minimal notice period. Annual holidays, including holidays scheduled before the notice of termination is given, do not form any part of the notice period, and annual holiday pay cannot be used to pay in lieu of notice. The Saskatchewan Human Rights Code prohibits employers from terminating employees on the basis of race, creed, religion, color, sex, sexual orientation, family status, marital status, disability, age, nationality, ancestry, place of origin, and receipt of welfare. A group termination occurs when an employer terminates 10 or more employees at one place of employment within 4 weeks period. Termination includes layoff and no recall date, or a layoff of 26 weeks or more. The employer must give notice of group termination. An employer must provide written notice to the minister, each employee whose employment will be terminated, and any trade union representing the affected employees.
Pregnant women can get 18 weeks of unpaid maternity leave, and primary caregiver of an adopted child can get up to 18 weeks unpaid adoption leave. The parent taking maternity or adoption leave can take up to 34 weeks of parental leave. Parental leave and maternity leave must be taken in one continuous period. The parent who does not take maternity or adoption leave can take up to 37 of unpaid parental leave. Parents returning from maternity, parental, or adoption leave must be reemployed in the same or comparable job. Full or part-time employees who are currently employed and have been employed for at least 20 weeks in the 52 weeks before the day the leave is to begin can get maternity, adoption, or parental leave. An employee must give the employer written notice 4 weeks before the day her leave begins. The notice must include the days she plans to begin the leave and a medical certificate with the estimated date of birth. The estimated date of return to work should be included in the notice. An employee must give the employer written notice 4 weeks before the day the child comes into his or her care. If the employee is unable to give proper notice, whatever notice is given by social services, the adoption agency, or birth parents must also be given to the employer. The estimated date of returning to work should also be included in this notice. An employee must give the employer written notice 4 weeks before the leave begins. The notice must include the day he or she begins to leave. If the employer is on maternity or adoption leave and is requesting parental leave, the written application must be submitted at least 4 weeks before the employee was to return to work. The new estimated date of return to work should be included in this notice. If the employer provides these benefits to other employees, employers who provide sick leave benefits and/or disability benefits to employees must make sure that pregnant employees get these benefits when they are unable to work because of illness or injury, including pregnancy or pregnancy-related illness. Maternity leave can start any time during the 12 weeks before the estimated date of birth. If the employee did not give the employer 4 weeks notice before starting her leave, the 14-week leave can start any time during the 8 weeks before the estimated date of birth. Maternity leave can be extended 6 weeks if there is a medical reason for not returning to work. A medical certificate is needed for this extension. Adoption leave starts on the day the child becomes available for adoption. Unless parental leave is being taken with maternity leave, the leave can be taken any time between 12 weeks before the estimated date of birth of the child will come into the employee's care and 52 weeks after the date the child was actually born or came into the employee's care. Women get at least 6 weeks leave after the date of birth, even if this causes the total maternity leave to be taken more than 18 weeks. The law says no employer shall dismiss, lay off, suspend, or otherwise discriminate against an employee because she is pregnant, temporarily disabled because of pregnancy, or has applied for maternity leave.
We have learned that an employer must have an effective reason for discharging or terminating an employee, and that the weeks of notice be given to an employee is crucial.
Together, we discovered that maternal, adoption, or parental leave is very reasonable and supportive by the employer.